Oh, way up north there by Duluth.
You ready to do this thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
The board meeting this morning.
I understand that was quite a thing. I saw Dave Osnes in the hall. He gave me a shirt.
I miss that.
Yes, I'm sure you do. Well, good afternoon, everyone. The clock on the wall says it's 12, and today is October 27th. We are located in the boardroom of the St. Croix County Government Center. This is the time and the place that was published and announced as the meeting date for the October meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment of St. Croix County. As the chair, I will call the meeting to order and say that my name is Buck Malick. I am a resident of the town of Hudson, one of the citizen members, as it were. And I'm going to ask the other four members of the board to introduce themselves, and then the staff people to introduce themselves. Mr. Peterson?
Dave Peterson, citizen member, town of Kinnickinnick.
Joe Miller, citizen member, town of Hammond.
Greg Telejohn, District 14 Supervisor.
Dave Nickham, Town of Baldwin, citizen member.
Ellen Denzer, Community Development Director.
Jared Lehner, Land Use Planner.
Mike Wozniak, Land Use Administrator.
Thank you very much. I'll make a statement for the record that I believe this meeting to have been properly published and noticed in the required newspapers. And even though the time had to be changed to adjust to a meeting of the county board in this room, I believe that was also properly noticed to the world. If anybody thinks that's not the case, please speak up right now so that we can deal with any objections to the notice for this meeting. Good. That's 15 years and another month with no objection. We have one, let's see, I don't have a written agenda, so let me refresh my recollection by looking up there. Thing to do is approve the minutes first from the last meeting, the September meeting. The minutes will be deemed approved as they were distributed unless any of the board members have a reason to want to change the minutes. Oh, thank you very much, Julie. Thank you, Dave. Board members, anything on the minutes? Otherwise, okay, they are deemed approved then. We have a meeting, we have a public hearing for a request for a conditional use permit in the town of Wilson, I believe it is. Let's hear, or Springfield, in the hamlet of Wilson in the town of Springfield. So let's hear from Mr. Wozniak, the staff report, which recommends approval of that conditional use permit.
Very good. Board of Adjustment members, applicant, those from the public who may be here for this. The board has on its agenda a consideration of a request for a conditional use permit for to allow a two-family dwelling on a parcel located in the county's R1 zone district. This request is from David and Jenny Tumax Vasquez. And the property in question is located at 2812 Highway 12, again in the town of Springfield. And I'll note that as is customary, the board has been provided a copy of the staff report that I'm running through, and a copy of the conditional use permit application submitted by the applicant. The site in question, again, is in the town of Springfield, 2812 Highway 12, 15.6 acre parcel. And I'll note the property is within the Shoreland Overlay District of Carr Creek, although the actual construction will occur outside of the 300-foot shoreland boundary. The site conditions we've referenced in our staff report. The site gently slopes towards Carr Creek. We noted that there was a large barn that's been removed. The original farmhouse has been demolished, though a foundation is still in place. The property is served by a private drive and two other properties to the south and southeast, as you can see on this slide. In terms of the proposal, the applicant's proposing, as I had indicated, a two-family dwelling, a duplex on the site. Each unit will have 2 bedrooms and an attached one-stall garage. State-approved plans for a 4-bedroom mound system. Actually, I should say this permit, the sanitary permit, has now been approved since this staff report was prepared. So when we prepared it, it was still under review. And I would note that the entire dwelling will have a basement foundation. Just another slide here that gives a overview of what's going to happen on the site. Again, it references a barn that was removed and notes a well location and an existing shed. Where the duplex is going to be constructed, the existing driveway will be extended to provide driveway access to the 2 one-stall garages that will be part of the construction, and indicated is where the sanitary system will be installed. Just indicate here in the presentation we have some proposed elevations that the applicant had submitted of what the structure will look like. Again, kind of a side-by-side arrangement of the 2 units. And here's another slide with a floor plan, again indicating each unit has 2 bedrooms and 1 bath, with a future second bath in the basement and 1 car attached garage. Each unit 885 square feet of livable space. They've indicated the basement may be finished with additional living space such as a family room or rec room, but no other bedrooms are proposed to be added to each of the dwellings. We haven't received any comments from the town of Springfield on this item. And I won't go through our standard slide here, but it includes the criteria to evaluate conditional use permit requests from Chapter 15, the county's general zoning ordinance. And I will note that your options here are to approve the request, deny the request, or table, postpone the decision to consider information gathered or requested additional information. And we have included some draft findings with the staff report. And again, I'm sure you've read these. I won't detail all of them. They do include basic information about the site that we typically include. And they reference the, again, there is a number 5 I would call out. State of Wisconsin has approved the design of the private on-site wastewater treatment system to serve the 4-bedroom dwelling, or 2 bedrooms for each unit. And where it says a permit has yet to be filed with the county, that has now occurred, and you might, we could strike that last sentence in that finding upon your direction. We note structures that have been removed from the property, and also note that each unit qualifies as a dwelling unit by having a room or suite of rooms capable of being occupied as an independent and separate housekeeping establishment by only one family, and which contains independent cooking, bathroom, and sleeping facilities, and meets the 500 square foot minimum main floor area per attached dwelling unit. I would note that further that we've included with our findings for Board of Adjustment the reference of approval criteria, including the proposed use complies with applicable standards in the zoning ordinance, the development standards, and any applicable use regulations. Here we note that each unit of the duplex meets the definition and standards of a dwelling unit, and will be connected to a new sanitary system properly sized for the new construction. And in respect to the proposed unit, will it not cause a reduction of property values in the affected neighborhood? Here we note that the construction will not lower the value of the neighborhood parcels. The construction will replace an existing farmhouse, and it should increase the value of the property. We're not certain we can say that it would impact surrounding, increase or positively change surrounding residential properties. We feel it will not detract from that, however. And further, I'd note that the proposed use would not constitute a nuisance by reason of noise, dust, smoke, odor, lighting, all of the factors we reference in here. The result of the project wouldn't constitute a nuisance in and of itself. This does not give the applicant or contracted help the ability to create any unnecessary nuisance if approved. There's always some activity during construction, of course, of any structure that may cause temporary noise or dust, but that's short-lived upon completion of the project. The use also, we believe, does not violate the spirit or intent of the chapter. Purpose of the zoning code, provisions that apply to this request are to encourage planned and orderly land use, protect property values and property tax base, and to provide healthy surroundings for family life, all of which we think this request fulfills. And lastly, under findings, the use isn't contrary to the public health, safety, or general welfare. Construction of a two-family dwelling would enhance public health, safety, and welfare by providing additional housing units in the county, as well as creating quality and safe housing. And I would note that under staff recommendations, we have a recommendation to the board based on the findings of fact included in the staff report. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit request with a dozen conditions we've referenced here in the staff report. Again, I'm not going to read through all of these. If you have any specific questions, I would call out just one of them in particular. We did call out, although the construction work is occurring outside of the shoreland area, so it's not subject to a separate land use permit, we did call for the applicant to schedule a pre-construction meeting with Community Development Department staff prior to initiating site work and construction, just so we're confident that erosion control or any other concerns on site that we may have are being addressed properly. And at that, staff's available to questions if anything, the board has any concerns, or if any issues arise based on public hearing comments.
Mike, yeah, I noticed a lot of equipment sitting around there. Is this a farm, or is it going to, the thought of a contractor storage yard kind of went through my mind. So just curious if there was anything like that.
I may, hold off just a sec. Maybe it would be best if we let the applicant address what their intention is with the equipment. Because
Mike,
I'm not 100%, I'm not clear on that.
with the septic system, it's a common drain field, but is there two separate septic tanks, or is it one common tank for both residences?
I believe it's a shared system. I hadn't reviewed the sanitary permit application. I'm sure the applicant can probably answer that question. We have a permit in hand and we've reviewed it. They're showing one area, and I'm fairly certain that's what their intention is.
It is it's one system for the whole thing. So
Yeah.
it's a
So-
it's a
so-
4-bedroom system.
And so it's one tank and one drain field? Okay.
Other questions, board members? I noted that the septic system is a mound, I guess not surprising, in that part of the county where the ground does not normally absorb water very well. And I note that there is an intention to install, or the possibility of installing basement bathrooms. And it's not inconceivable that folks might choose to sleep in the basement after it's finished. And were that the case, the mound system might not be adequate. How does the staff feel about that?
The windows that are being installed are not considered egress windows, so it would not be considered a proper bedroom in the basement. So,
From a building code standpoint.
right, from a building code standpoint, and that's what we have to go off of.
So if neighbors complained that there were more people in there than you would expect from two families, the staff would be authorized to inspect and would find that people are not entitled to be sleeping in the basement on a regular basis. Is that a correct statement?
We probably would not be able to weigh in technically on the sleeping in the basement part. That's a safety issue that would be a building code issue, which would go to the town. However, we would say that if you have more people than 2 bedrooms, then you must upgrade your sanitary system, which would be where our authority would lie.
Yes.
So, and that's what we have made people do. For instance, when we've gotten complaints about people who are doing the rental of property along a water body or even just out in the country, and we get complaints about on a weekend there's 8 cars parked there or 4 or something like that, and we check websites, and then we process that as a violation of the sanitary ordinance, and they have to bring it up to code. And we put a maximum on it, and we make that very clear.
I have no further questions. Board members, do you have any? No? No. All right, why don't we hear from those people who'd like to speak in favor of this application, the applicant or anybody else who wants to supplement what Mr. Wozniak has said or has any difference of opinion, disagrees with the staff, thinks the board ought to approve this in a different way with different conditions or anything like that.
Are you asking for people to either for it or against it? Or are you asking for both or just one or the other?
I usually start with those who are for, and then those who are against, and then those who are kind of neutral. Thanks for drawing that out. Would you like to speak, sir? Would you please sign in if you haven't yet? Sign in over there. Yep. We'll be happy to wait for you. And anybody else who wants to speak, sign there before you step up to the microphone. When you do that, you take an oath that your testimony will be the truth. And so then we don't need to administer an oath with hands up and all that. stuff. Yes, tell us your name and address, please, and then
Well,
speak.
my name is Roger Coleman, 28110 US Highway 12. This is my son-in-law and daughter that's proposing this building. And they had, I did previously own the site from my wife's folks. I bought from her grandmother's father passed away, and so I'm very familiar with this. It would be great to see another house built on that site. It's a beautiful site, it's got good scenery, and way out in the country, and the nearest neighbor is Jesse over here, and there's a big tree screen between the houses, so you really couldn't see the house from either house. And because there's distance away, that there would be not much of a noise issue. So I would say this is a very good idea to build a house there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who wants to speak in favor? Let's see, we didn't have a question that wasn't answered. We got the answer right about the tanks. Yeah. Okay, anybody want to speak against it or in a neutral fashion? It really doesn't matter. But if you have ideas for us, we want to hear them.
Good morning. Well, I guess it's good afternoon now. I'm Jesse Moore, and this is my wife, Ann, and we live on the property directly to the east. We're at 2814 US Highway 12. And in one of these pictures, that's our house right there.
Got it.
All right, and we're here in speaking in favor of against this. Being that our property is located so close, I kind of disagree with a couple things that the gentleman had said and that Roger had said about the proximity to our property. The property line is right here, and it's in direct sight. We can almost see. Really, I didn't really know about this until about 8 days ago. Nobody had come and talked to me about this, so we were finding out about it when we were mailed the letter about this meeting today. But this is in direct view of almost all portions of our house where it's going to be. The noise, there is very little at all, any type of screening to be able to stop the noise or to stop any visual sight onto our property. And I haven't seen the application, but I know on some of the application there's some things that discuss about screening and some regulations, and specifically how the stormwater management's going to be. On the proposed picture right here, this is our property line, right here. And this is the septic tank that's being proposed. This is downhill from that septic tank. So, or the drain field, or whatever you guys call it now, sewer reparation place, I don't care. But it's directly uphill from our property, so if anything goes wrong, that's going down onto our property. The previous house had a hole in the ground for the drain system right here. And even though we didn't have any issues with it, it was only a single person that was living in this house when we moved here. So this is something that's very new to us, that would be right here close to our property line. The lighting control, again, there's little to no screening from where this proposed site is to where our house is located at, and I think that needs to be addressed. Also, that includes lighting control. Any of the lights would shine right into our house, depending, again, I don't know exactly where this would be located at, but I know it would be right in view of our bedroom window, and the lights would shine into our bedroom window with no screening there. The stormwater management, again, this is uphill. This area is uphill to all this down here, so depending on how landscaping and stuff was done here, it would all drain down onto our property. I don't hear any of that addressed. It may have been addressed in the applicant that was submitted, but I do not see any, and I could not find a copy of the application. And probably the two biggest things that I'm really worried about is the safety to the community for this. US Highway 12 is a highway, and it's down here. And there is a lot of traffic on this road, and particularly on the evenings in the wintertime, in the evening, there's a lot of cars that are coming in and out, and there's no place to pass on particularly this portion of the driveway. So people are having to stop on Highway 12 to allow whomever is to come out to make the turn, and then us to be able to go onto this road. It's happened a couple times for me personally. I didn't speak to my wife or my kids about how many times they've had to stop on Highway 12 because that that is a safety hazard right there. The entrance onto this road is not capable of allowing two people to pass. And probably the last thing, and I don't see marked on here, is when we had first purchased our property included this right here and then right up here. We made an additional purchase of the property in the back, and part of the easement, because until this property is paid off, there was an easement that I do not see on here that grants us access to this property if we were wanting to sell the back portion of the property. I do not see that marked on here. So that's a concern to me.
Where would you show with the arrow where you believe that easement is? Or is there not a particular, is it just a anywhere type easement?
Well, if I remember correctly, it's been a number of years since we made the purchase of that property, but it goes up this driveway and turns right into here to allow us access to that part.
Okay, so it runs over to near your house, actually uses the same driveway you get to your house, apparently.
Well, our driveway, here's the main driveway to Highway 12. Highway 12 is down here.
Right.
So you come up and then you brake to the right, and this goes to our house. But for the easement of this property, because it was a separate purchase, we needed an easement of an access in case we were going to sell this. We needed an easement that goes up this driveway, and it accessed this part right here. This was part of the additional purchase.
I see. Do you think that easement is right on that its center line is on the property, your property and the other property, or is it all on your property?
The easement, if I remember correctly, it was the driveway. So I don't know how you rate that. It was the driveway, and then it goes up and turns, and it allowed us access to this portion right here, which is part of the second part that we bought.
So that easement may in fact be on part of the property right near the proposed septic mound.
Correct.
Am I understanding that right?
Correct. Here's the driveway. The easement should include this part right here. And then if I'm not mistaken, it was right along the border line. And then this right here portion is part of the extra portion that we purchased.
Yeah. Staff, are you aware of that?
Yeah, I don't think we were aware of it. You know, if it was filed against the property, we could look it up, or if they have a copy of it in their records, what showed up was part of a title search or part of your closing documents.
Well, if it's not recorded, then it probably doesn't matter.
Right. Well,
But
exactly.
if it is recorded, it's right down the hallway here. If it's a standard 60-foot easement, and if it's splitting 30 feet on each side, it's possible that it's closer to that septic mound than we might all like. Now, this may all be a mistake or a misunderstanding, or there may be no real easement. Sometimes there's just talk about an easement, but it never quite gets done. We just don't at this point know, but
Being that it was short notice, I'll continue to look through my records to find that easement, but it was written out in the purchase agreement when we purchased that additional part of the property.
Okay. Did you say your last name is Warren?
Moore, M-O-O-R.
Thank you. I got behind in my note-taking here.
And it's Jesse, and then my wife Ann.
And Ann, yes, yes. Okay, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, that was the part, because, and what the gentleman was saying about property value, being that I had such a short time, I wasn't able to do a thorough search of property value, but I certainly have to object to what he said about it not affecting the property. When I purchased our original 20 acres, I had purchased a home in an agricultural area out in the country. If I wanted to live by a duplex, I would have purchased a place in the cities. I do not want to live by a duplex. You're bringing unvetted people into a property, then they don't care anything about the property itself. They can just trash it and then they'll leave. So that definitely does affect property value. And I definitely disagree with what he said about that. When I was doing a survey of the people where I work at Baldwin Hospital, Western Wisconsin Health, and I was asking a lot of friends out there about this. All I heard was nightmare after nightmare of people bringing families into the country like this, and they just don't have any value to keep the place nice and clean, and that definitely destroys the property value. We have a very expensive house and a very expensive property, and we want to keep it that way. And also, when I was looking, I was trying to find any other area, any other property in the area that would allow, or that's similar to this, that allowed a duplex in. There's nothing that I could find. I did a Google search of the St. Croix County maps, and I stayed particularly within our area, within our town, and I could not find anywhere around here that allowed a duplex in that I could see what their property values have done over the years. So I definitely am not for this. I do not want it there, and I've made myself heard.
Staff, is this the only R1 district in Springfield Township? Because duplexes are allowed in R1 zoning, right?
Again, they can be by conditional use permit.
I think the question was, is there any currently in Springfield Township?
Well, I asked if there are other pieces of land that are zoned R1, which this is, and it allows a duplex with approval from this board, but it's expected that there will be duplexes on R1 zoned property when the stars are aligned for the site. It's probable that it hasn't always been zoned R1, or R1 has not always allowed duplexes, so you didn't find duplexes simply because they haven't been built yet when you went looking for them. My understanding is that single families or duplexes or most any kind of residence may be lived in by the owner or may be rented. It is legal to do that. Mm-hmm. Did you want to say something, Ms. Denzer?
I was just going to agree with what you just said, that both single-family and duplexes can be lived in by the owner or rented. There's no regulation that you can't rent your property at any time. Mm-hmm. And also, as far as whether or not they've been allowed just recently or whether we have them in R1 districts throughout the county, yes, this board has approved duplexes in R1 districts throughout the county, and they have been permitted, or not permitted, but conditionally permitted, excuse me, in the county for quite a long time.
I remember approving a number of them in the Roberts area, in the area that you represented over there.
And we've had them in Ceylon and Stanton and other towns.
But Mr. Moore might, since he was looking for things close to him, it's reasonable he didn't find any that were close to him. We have the authority as one of our conditions to require vegetative screening if we feel it's appropriate for a place. And we have the authority to require that exterior lights be what we call them downward directed, so that they do not produce a line of sight to the light bulb off the property. Do Do you understand what I'm trying to say, Mr. Moore?
I understand what
By
you're trying
a
to say.
downward directed light.
Yeah.
And we could, we don't normally do this, but we could require that the lights, that exterior lights be motion sensitive, motion activated. We usually have taken the view in the past that they are more of a nuisance than having them on
I would
full
agree.
time, that going on, going off business. Some people find to be less desirable. Board members, do you have other questions for Mr. Moore?
Yeah, who maintains the joint access to the properties?
Are you talking,
The road that, you mentioned the traffic buildup on Highway 12.
Shared part
Yes.
of the driveway?
yes, we both take
Shared
turns
part.
in plowing this part. For the snow, we both take turns in plowing this part, and we also do gravel. We've been splitting that for this part right here,
Okay,
for the maintenance of it.
because you mentioned the traffic hazard because the road is so narrow.
Yes,
I would possibly entertain a discussion on requiring that road to be widened to the point that two vehicles are allowed to pass at the same time. That way it would alleviate the highway situation on Highway 12.
yes. That was my main safety concern when I read this, was from the traffic pulling onto the driveway from Highway 12.
And who owns the, where the blue horse, right there where your arrow is, who owns that structure there?
This is where they all currently live.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah,
And has there
thanks,
been any
Cooper.
concern about, this area right now is all farm with animals? Has there been any concern, I didn't see it in the application, of how this would affect any of the animals? Because they would be right, again, we have an electric fence right here. How that would affect any of our animals, if it's even been a concern in the past?
So the land between your house and the proposed new duplex is currently being pastured, you're saying?
Correct.
And the boundary line has an electric fence on it to keep the animals within the enclosure.
Yes, on our side, there's an electric fence to keep the animals within our closure, or within our enclosure. And on the other side, there is, it's some sort of fencing, it looks like concrete reinforcement fencing on their side to keep the animals off of our property.
Uh-huh. Ms. Denzer?
I don't believe that this board has any real regulatory authority with regard to animal fencing. There's a state statute about that, and I believe that is between the two property owners and would not be something this board should have consider.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion.
I agree. I'm just saying you what I believe.
No,
That doesn't
no,
mean you
I-
believe it too. So-
I know that's true. I've dealt with some of those boundary fence issues between farmers and non-farmers, and you know which side the posts go on, and you go to the middle of the fence, and one pays the right half, and the other pays the left half, and if there's a dispute, the town board has the authority to resolve it, the authority and the duty actually, but sometimes they shrink from getting involved in that.
We've
Have you
never
seen
had
that
any
too,
issues.
Joe? Yeah, it can be.
Yep, we've never had any issues with that.
Yeah. But sometimes having an electric fence next to a residence is problematic. I mean, I remember hearing people come in here and testify on other cases, in which some of the people were all excited that a barbed wire fence was going to be left next to their residence, and they had images of the children getting hurt on the barbs.
Yes, we found a lot of that.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, you've said all you wanted to, Mr. Moore,
Yes, thank you.
and board members you have. Okay. Anybody else in the room want to speak? Mr. Coleman, did you want to rebut some of these comments or speak back to it or something?
Well, I'm Roger Coleman, and, my house is right here is my house here. Highway 12 is down here, and I really never seen much traffic problem on Highway 12. Now, I don't sit there and watch Highway 12 that much, but I just don't see a traffic hazard there as it is now. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak on this? Oh, yes, sir. Did you sign in?
Yes, I did.
Very good.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is David Tumax, and I'm one of the applicants for this duplex. And I just would like to thank everybody for your time and for basically listening to us. I just would like to answer a couple of things as far as like what Mr. Moore was concerned about, the light and stuff that on this building that we really love to build there. The building is going to be facing basically the northwest side, so I believe the light as far as the entryway and stuff will be on the opposite side of where his house is. And actually, we've thought about that too. The lights will be, showing down. There won't be no reflectors or anything that will be bothering his family. They've been a very nice family with us, good neighbors and stuff. So we're not really looking into making this a problem for them, or we're not looking to bother anyone. We just want to invest in our property and make it look a little better and get a little more value to the property and stuff. So there's no intention of bothering anyone. So that's one of the things I would like to answer. And as far as the electric fence, we were planning on installing a fence inside, like so that if kids or families will go out and walk around, they wouldn't be in direct contact with electric fence. So I don't see that being an issue. And
where were you planning to put up the fence, Mr. Tumax?
It will be probably about 3 feet inside, like away from his property, probably. Like in our property, we will put maybe 3 or 4 feet away, so that we cannot go on this side. It will be, like normal fences that you see and around houses, either like a vinyl or wooden fence or something like that, just to keep to stay away from the electric fence. We understand that Mr. Moore has cattle and horses, and it's good to keep them inside. But as far as his concern about the kids being shocked or something like that, we were planning on doing something like a wooden fence or something, or vinyl, just to keep the kids safe. And
how long would you make that fence? Can you use the pointer there to show us where it would start and where it would end?
Well, the fence would be, let's see, since the property, let's see if there's a better picture. So along this property here, there's electric fence all over. So we were planning on probably running a wooden fence somewhere about right here, right there, and right there, way away from this electric fence. Not really next to it, but enough to just keep any kids from touching the electric fence.
So you've indicated with your pointer that the area you plan to fence with wood or plastic is the the south boundary, and the west, no wait, that's the east side, the east boundary.
East and south, yes.
Yeah. And how tall do you envision that fence?
Probably 6 feet.
So it's your intention to also have it be a visual barrier?
Yeah, as far as I don't think anyone is taller than, well, there are some people are taller than 6 feet, but but I think it will block some of the views also. So I think that's basically all my comment, and again, thanks for your time. And
Okay. Board members, do you have some questions for Mr. Tumax?
Yeah, are you familiar with that easement or where it goes by any chance? For the, to get to that back field?
I'm not familiar with this one. That was a new thing that I heard today. I know there is some easement that we share with my father-in-law from here, and I believe that, you know, a little bit right here with Mr. Moore. But I'm not familiar with the other one. We probably could look into that.
Anybody else?
The town doesn't have any zoning there at all then, where the county is totally the zoning official? Okay. And there was no comment from the town board apparently. Were they aware of it, I wonder? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Tumax.
Thank you.
Did you want to say anything more, Mr. Moore? No. Board members, at this point, I take it there's no one else in the room who wants to speak? No. Good. At this point, I would normally close the hearing and we would proceed to decision, but I'm concerned, frankly, about the driveway easement, whether it's whose property it's on, and I don't want to set this up for a future conflict between the neighbors over the location and maintenance of a driveway. And I'm concerned about the one-lane width of the connection to Highway 12, thinking that it might be safer for all if that were widened, at least for a part of its length, a few car lengths. And then there's the matter of the fence and/or vegetation screening, and of course requiring the downward directed lights. So personally, and I speak only for myself, but I just want to get this out here, I'm inclined to table this a month and ask the staff to work with the applicant on better resolution of those issues, rather than us trying to do it here on the fly. Now I've said my piece. Board members, do you?
I would agree with you on everything you said there, and I will say that I went out and looked at the property this morning, and I did have maybe a little concern about the proximity of the proposed building site with the existing home, but obviously there are legal parameters there, and I don't think we would want to override that either, but I did have some concerns. So all that said, I think I would be in favor of tabling it for a month and having a little better look at it.
I agree.
Okay, not looking for a decision. Let's give the staff a chance to reflect on that and push back or whatever they see fit.
I'd just like to point out that if it were a single-family home that were being constructed on here, we wouldn't be here at all today.
Right.
And they could essentially build as big of a single-family home as they'd like, with, as many number of bedrooms or, square footage or anything like that under current zoning.
As long as they met sanitary
as long
needs,
as they
of
meet
course.
sanitary requirements and setbacks. But, so I just like, so like, in those situations, we wouldn't be addressing screening, we wouldn't be addressing the driveway or anything like that either, because there was already a house there on the property that they had removed.
Thank you. Did you want to say something, Mike? I see your light's on.
Well, the only thing I would say is, regarding the easement, I think we can research that and determine if it's filed or if it isn't filed. So that we can follow up on. Regarding the driveway, the only thing I would say is you have the property owner the property owners who that driveway property would involve any change. So, whether they're receptive or not, maybe you could get some sentiment from that today before you close the meeting.
Ms. Denzer?
I would like to just add that I totally understand you wanting to table it, and it's probably a good idea. It's not usually a good idea to, excuse me, try to craft conditions that maybe overreach. Especially this feels like there's at least, without getting into it, feels like there's a couple areas that I would like to consult our legal counsel that there might be some overreach. I'm not sure that, and on the other hand, there also may be consequences of crafting a condition that actually would have to be, you'd have to ask, well, is it just for the applicant, or would it be something that perhaps should be fencing, as an example, that should be something that's up to both of them, both property owners, to deal with under current statute. So again, just saying, I think it is a good idea to table it for those reasons, but I do think you should ask the applicant if that has an impact to their plans. We are nearing the end of the construction season, and I think it would be respectful to find out if that has negative impacts to them.
Thank you for your input, all of you. Mr. Tumax, could you come back to the microphone, please? Are you planning to start construction before the end of November?
Thank you for the question. Yes, actually, there was another comment I was going to do before, but yeah, we are planning on starting construction as soon as possible. Actually, since we got the permit to do the mound system and stuff, we already have people, company that will be working on, and obviously they're waiting on us to get the permit and stuff, so that everything can start working together. And yes, it will be very helpful if we can get an answer sooner. Thank you.
Would you address the question of widening the driveway, please? How do you feel about that?
As far as widening the driveway, I guess we could ask my father-in-law if I wouldn't think he will be opposed if that's one of the conditions. We could widen the entryway, but we don't see it as like an issue. But if that's one of the conditions, we'll definitely make it work.
Would you be able to gravel it so that it is at least 2 cars wide, that's at least 16 to 20 feet wide, and after in its finished condition, and at least 3 cars long at that expanded width?
Yes, we will be able to do that.
I confess, I didn't look at it. Is the ground hard enough, and does the topography, the hills and the bumps, allow for the widening of the driveway in that location?
It looks like it will be for 3 cars. Yes, there will be plenty.
Now, the culvert might have to be a new, longer culvert, mightn't it?
Yes.
And that costs money.
Yes. But we will work with that. If that's one of the conditions, we will work with that, just so we can get our project going.
They would have to work with the state on widening this too, because it's a state highway, and the state may not even allow them to widen it.
On the other hand, there already were 3 property owners, 3 residences. At any time, the residence that was there could have been expanded to have the equivalent of a 4-bedroom, or might have even have been a 4-bedroom house. I have no idea. It just, remember, be very careful about this, what you're thinking of. Again, I would recommend at this point that you do table this until, perhaps not all the way till next month because of the holiday, but table it and allow us to get some more information.
When is our next scheduled meeting now? I've lost track. Do you remember, Julie?
December 1st.
December 1st, so.
Do you mean table or postpone?
I mean postpone. Yeah, we often use the word table when we really mean postpone or defer, or delay.
And that driveway is owned by who?
It's jointly owned by the 2 families,
Mr.
3 families.
Not necessarily. It might be owned totally by one and have easements to the other. Or
Right.
2, excuse me. Would have to be at least 2 owners, but it might only be an easement. We don't know that.
How does that affect your thinking, Greg?
And the setback for the house from the southern property line, what is that distance?
The proposed new house?
I see it's 25 feet from the east.
Next picture down would, I think, would give us a better sense of those, Mr. Tumax. Yeah, right there.
Yeah. It's quite a way, probably close to 100 feet or so, probably more. Because there is that little shed right there, and then,
It is 25 feet from the east?
and then,
Yes.
yeah, at least, there's that little shed right there that's not gonna be moved. So that little shed at least about 20
Would
feet
you,
probably.
would you move to the next slide down?
Yeah, right
There, the one that, see,
Yeah,
you
so there's this little shed there.
you can
and
see the building.
We're planning
You See
on,
the septic mound?
so there is a lot of space there.
And how close is the septic tank to the
House?
southern property line?
The septic field
The
is shown there.
dispersal field, or the mound, appears to be about 20 feet, based on it being 25 feet from the side yard setback to the house. The septic appears to be about 20, the edge of the toe of the slope.
Well, there's no scale there, so I'm asking.
Well, I suppose we could set a special meeting in a couple of weeks. That'd probably be enough time. Enough time for the staff to get a legal opinion that the board has no decision-making authority in these topics, or whatever it may be. Mr. Moore and Mr. Tumax, it's very important that you try to work this out. I don't see any heads nodding. That means you don't want to work it out, huh?
We've never been approached about it.
Now you have. Today you have. And I'm doing all I can with the limited tools I have available to say that your ability to resolve these issues between yourself will be better than something we can impose. It's just the way life works. So, board members, some of you want to go ahead and make a decision today, right? You, Greg, want to do that, I presume.
I don't
I-
need to.
I'd move we postpone it till the
Oh.
next earliest meeting.
Okay, you're open to that? And Dave, are you open to that possibility? All right, let's talk about a next possible meeting then, right now. See what we can come up with. Julie, do you have any suggestions for us? Thank you very much. Let's see, it should be...
What about or November 10th? Just 2 weeks from now.
Can we get this room at 8:30 in the morning?
Probably not, no.
How about 2:15?
2:15 in the afternoon
Yeah.
on the 10th?
I would like to note too that the applicant, they're restaurant owners, so they're outside, like right now, this is their busy time, so it's just him and his wife that run a restaurant, so if we could just be cognizant of that as well.
So what time of day does that lead you to?
His wife told me earlier the better, so, because right now they're here during their lunch rush.
November 10th, this meeting room would be available starting at 10 a.m.
But you have a client appointment?
I can make it work, it just cuts into my workday.
Of course.
Of course, just like today.
Does 2:05 not cut into your workday?
Correct.
Oh,
But I'll make it work.
I may not be able to attend.
at all, or just at that time?
Having a minor procedure on the 10th. No, yeah, on the 9th. On the 9th.
On the 9th. And you may or may not be ready to do this on the 10th, huh? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we can do it with 4.
Sure.
And obviously, everybody's in a hurry to get this decided before the construction season closes down for the year. So let's entertain that idea. Somebody want to make a motion to that effect?
Can we ask that you tossed 2 different dates or times around? Are you suggesting the November 10th at 2:15?
Well, I thought that one didn't work.
That's the worst from the restaurant standpoint, as I understand it. 10 is better. Mr. Tumax, could you address that for us? Would you rather, if we meet on November 10th, 2 weeks, would it be better at 10 o'clock or at 2 o'clock?
10 a.m. will be a lot better.
Would be better.
Thank you.
And Craig can accommodate that with some work with his clients.
And you are going to keep the hearing open?
I am,
Okay, so we won't need to re-advertise it?
no. you won't
Okay,
need
just
to-
wanted to confirm that so everyone knows that in the room.
Sure, okay. How about you, Mr. and Mrs. Moore? Are you able to be here on the 10th? I realize it's an inconvenience for everybody, but we're struggling to get the best possible decision here.
That was the 10th at 10 a.m.?
Yes, it will be. Okay, somebody turn that in. Now, do we have enough direction to the staff on what you're supposed to work on? You're supposed to work on sorting out the matter of the shared driveway, including issues about an easement, considerations of downward directed lights, vegetative or fence screening. Assure us that the mound system is not likely to have dirty water running downhill onto the Moore's property. Let's see, any other, oh, and the driveway. A widening of the driveway in order to,
Along that line, I will agree with what's said earlier. I have worked with the state of Wisconsin. doing anything on a state highway that has to do with the driveway is a nightmare. If they had their way, there wouldn't be any driveways, because driveways are a headache. They're a safety issue, they're a snow issue, they're just a pain. But without the driveway, I guess we wouldn't need the highway. Also, Mr. Moore mentioned about the sewer running downhill. When they build a sewer system, and I understand what he's saying, but if you build a sewer system and pay $25,000 and it doesn't work, to me is crazy. Because most of them do, but he's got a point. I don't.
Yeah, it's rare for them to fail. They are designed, of course, to contain the water that's put into them.
I'll just comment on the driveway business too. When I was there this morning, I overshot it going east. So, and I looked in the rearview mirror and here, 2 more vehicles headed at me. And I did find a driveway I could turn into, but I had to physically pull into it, wait for those vehicles to pass and back out. So, whether the state would approve something right up at there, also considered, whether it was 20 feet in or 15 feet in, they widened it. I'm sure that might be legal too, but that's just a thought, just an observation.
And I'd like to have you consult with the fire department and get their reading on driveway widths, because I have a fire department member on my town board, and that's a big deal with them to make sure that they're adequately wide for fire equipment to pass.
I wonder if it would help to have, if the driveway, so it didn't need approval from the DOT, if it had still the same width of entrance onto 12, but it flared out inside of that to provide storage space for cars to stack up, if that would help. Something to think about. Yeah, that's just another way of saying what you were saying, I guess, Dave. Ms. Denzer.
We have driveway standards in our ordinance, so if we have them bring a driveway up to standards, it'll have to be brought up to standards. We can't have, don't meet this part of the standard and do meet that part, because we don't want to have a conflict with the state highway. It'll have to be brought up to standard. So, and those standards would address fire safe access and that kind of thing, the width. So that's where I think this would go. Generally speaking, is either it's brought up to the standards in the county ordinance or not.
Why would we not?
Because again, this is an existing site with an existing house that is simply being replaced. And I think that's important. This is not a new subdivision. It's not a new thing. It's being replaced. They had access before. So.
But it's being replaced by a duplex, and
that shouldn't
we
really
do
make
have a
that much
conditional.
difference. It really shouldn't, not a duplex. It's not in our multifamily category, it's in our single-family category. Single homes and duplexes are generally treated the same.
I'm not liking what I'm hearing, because I'm concerned about safety.
And I understand, but there are a lot of old driveways to old farmsteads throughout the county.
But we don't have jurisdiction over them. When they come with an application, suddenly we have jurisdiction, and it's time for us to do the right thing, it seems to me.
But you would be suggesting that we make everybody who
applies for a duplex.
House even, because that would, to me, that would be the same argument, not just duplexes. But that's an argument for another day.
Well, you may force me to do some research here and start a lawsuit.
There you go.
All right. Is one of you doing the motion, or am I?
Go ahead, Dave.
I'll move that we postpone until the 10th and have a look at it then.
I'll second it for a 10 o'clock meeting that day.
Further discussion? All in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimously approved. Okay, well, we'll get to meet again. So that's all the discussion for today, folks. May I suggest that you get together in the hallway before you leave here and decide when you're going to next meet and talk about this? Okay, thank you. Now, what else can we talk about here? Greg wants to talk about changing our meeting times, because they are really disrupting his business.
10 o'clock is the middle of the day for me,
Absolutely.
and
We just need to find a room that's big enough so that we
we have
can,
to have, we have to have the facility, the audio, video facilities. And didn't you used to meet here before?
we've met here for many years, and then the court system started telling us we couldn't have it before 10.
One day a month? We can't have it that one day?
Tell us, Julie.
That's correct.
Why?
The court says we can't.
But it's the county boardroom, not the court's room.
The judges overrule us.
Well, let them file a lawsuit.
Well, they might.
Well, Mr. Telejohn, you're on the county board, and so you are the person who would have to take this to the county board and ask them to overrule the judges, not us. We're staff.
For one day a month.
One day a month. You can't have
Sounds
it.
reasonable to me.
As is every day of the month? We can't have it?
The courts have this room reserved every day of every month
Whether they
for
use it,
jury
whether they use it or not?
orientation. Correct.
Well, why can't they plan around when one day a month we can use it?
Agreed, and that question was asked and we were denied.
By whom?
The courts,
Which court?
the
What
clerk
court?
of court.
Okay, let's appeal it.
I'm with you, I just don't understand it.
I don't either.
For
Why can't
many
they-
years,
why
we
can't
met
they-
at 8:30 in this room,
Why can't they cooperate?
and then,
That's what we're supposed to do, come to a consensus and cooperate.
yeah, you're speaking to the choir. It's unanimous among us.
We understand, you know, we're happy to have meetings at 8:30 in the morning, even 8.
I'd like to have it at 8, but if you want to pick a time now.
We need to
Well,
have the
but
front
we-
doors open, so
It
that,
used to have something, yeah, and the public's not allowed in until 8. And having it right at 8 doesn't give the public chance
I
to.
understand.
But at the same time, we can't have this, the judges, I mean, please talk to Mr. Witt, Administrator Witt. Really, I suggest you do, Greg, because we don't
I
have,
spoke to 'em.
okay, and has he offered any alternatives?
No.
Okay.
well, everybody is worried that they might get stopped for a speeding ticket and have to go upstairs. And the judge up there will say, oh, I remember when you told us that you insisted on having that meeting room at 8:30 once a month. I think that's the dynamic. I don't understand it myself because I never speed. But,
I just don't, yeah, I don't get it.
so would it be the admin committee that request would start in?
I think probably that would be the place.
I can talk to Kara,
Is she the chair of the admin committee? Yeah,
I'll talk to her.
go ahead. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
you're going to have to go higher than us. We cannot make it happen for you. I'm sorry.
No, it's not here.
Yeah.
all right, can we put this on the agenda for, well, let's put it on that special meeting
agenda?
to
Okay.
talk about our meeting.
So maybe you'll have an answer by then, by the 10th. In the meantime, can
Then
we,
we can pass a motion, it'll be unanimous,
Yeah,
and
that
we
should
can
be no-
forward our motion,
That
so,
we requested,
yeah. But why
Mm-hmm.
don't you talk to her before that and see if you can get the lay of the land?
yeah.
Maybe, maybe the judges just didn't realize we really wanted badly.
oh, sorry. Can we talk about your regularly scheduled meeting? Because we need to notice other things that may come before this board. And so far, it's tentative, because of the holiday, the Thanksgiving holiday, it's tentatively scheduled for December 3rd at, 1st, excuse me, December 1st at 10 a.m.
That's what I
It-
have down.
Yeah, and is that what you
Oh, I have
guys,
8:30 actually.
I have 8:30 myself, but it's 10.
Oh, it is that day. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
So we can get it at 8:30.
On that day, apparently.
How did that happen?
They're probably
Oh,
out for Christmas recess.
oh, yeah, there's no juries maybe or something. That's, yeah, that may be, well be the case. There you go. Good one.
They'll get their new wing back in the building.
All right, what else did you want to talk about December 1st?
Yeah, we have a couple CUPs for lifts. We have, remind me,
St. Joseph.
oh yeah, Town of St. Joe, we have some additional road improvements in the Riverway, just reconstructing of existing roads in Holton area.
It's for the project that you had approved a few months ago. They had gotten a state grant, and so they would like to add on a few roads for the same construction project.
And one other?
A wired communication facility in the town of Warren. Yeah, it's for fiber. Yeah.
We don't anticipate a lot of fanfare, but with those, but it'll be a busy agenda.
So even though we started at 8:30, we'll still probably go last.
Oh, well, that's better. For a long meeting that go 4 hours.
Anything else we should be talking about here before we leave? Good luck with your surgery, Mr. McCollum.
Eye surgery. Oh, that's a piece of cake. Cataracts?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome, yeah.
Me too. Yeah, that's great.
Me too.
You've been trying to change your outlook anyway.
I'm gonna declare this meeting adjourned at 1:17.
We're having too much fun.